How's it, Oaks? I hope you really enjoyed the conversation with Vince. We go over some interesting stuff, a bit about his history. We talk about the Dr650 gearbox, the carburetor. We touch on the rejetting mod again, talk about that quite in depth. We talk about beater motorbikes that he's selling quite regularly now. We talk about electric bikes. We talk about the gear ratio and whether the gears need to be changed in the gearbox and a lot more. So please enjoy, stay tuned, check out the whole thing if you can. Enjoy Vince the Wise.
In this long car drive with Vince, delivering some Dr650s, I managed to ask him some questions.
So, how are you, Vince?
Yeah, good, mate, thanks.
Good to hear. What are we doing today?
Well, we're delivering a few motorbikes today. We're going to Tenterfield to deliver two CT125 Hondas for a bloke to do post office work, post office contract out of Tenterfield. And then we're going to turn around and go back and go over to Coffs Harbour to deliver two DR650s.
The last of them?
Well, it's close to the last of them. We're just not real sure. Yeah, we're not real sure because they seem to send us random ones, and I've heard their secret information is that Suzuki still have some in the warehouse and they're sending them out in limited supplies.
Well, that's some frosty information.
No, we don't know how many we're going to get.
Do you mind if that information goes onto YouTube?
No, that's all right.
So, are you sad that the new DR era is coming to an end in Australia?
Oh, absolutely. What an enjoyable motorbike that's so suitable for Australia. It's just crazy that we can't get it, and it's not Suzuki's fault. It's the government regulations that have come about with anti-lock braking and I don't know, whatever else they think is a good idea to stop us mere motorbike riders from injuring ourselves because we don't know how to ride, but the government do. Yeah, I kind of agree. And that was a delayed response, but we don't know how to ride really. But the rest of the world's going to still keep producing them, right? Well, I understand they are still being produced and will be going to at least North America anyway. So yeah, I don't know. I really don't know about world markets. I don't think Suzuki Australia representatives really know. Don't care to tell us anyway. But we just know that it's the end of it here. Yeah. And fortunately, the DR lives a real long time, so there'll be a lot of DRs floating around for a number of years yet. And it's worthwhile rebuilding an old one. So
the shop will be focused on rebuilding old DRs?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I believe we will get more work now rebuilding, doing them up, restoring, whatever it might be. Just keeping an older one going, simply because the thing will keep going. We've got several examples that come to us that have got over 250,000 kilometres on them. And yes, they've been rebuilt, but they're still going and still very original.
That gives me hope for the future. So do you think, my bike, do you think when I get it to 300,000 Ks, I should rebuild it or just get rid of it and buy a new one?
I know your maintenance schedule. It might get there.
I'm getting better. But no, I was thinking I'll ride mine to South Africa.
Yeah, we've built DRs to go across to Africa, then travel up to the Isle of Man and come back. Yeah, of course, it'd be a good idea to check things to see whether they need freshening up. Yeah. Particularly the clutch, if it's done 50 or 60,000 Ks.
You mean replace everything, all the plates and stuff?
No. Well, no. You measure them and see, but you only replace stuff that's no good. And normally the steel plates are fine. You'd measure the springs for spring length and see that they were okay. Unless you've burnt the clutch, usually the springs are all right. But the fibre plates would be the ones that you'd be very particular about to check the wear replace them if any doubt. Check things like the spring cushions behind in the clutch. The clutch it's a push drive clutch, and that can wear out after a lot of miles. So good idea to check that too, or even replace the whole clutch basket if there was any doubt.
I'm keen to learn about that. That's still probably going to be 2 years from now. Do you think you'll accept me again in 2 years when I've come around Australia?
You might have learned a bit more, then you'd be all right.
Why coming to that? Why did you say yes when I asked you if I could come work at your shop for free? Probably a number of things. Probably curiosity. You had ordered a new bike, and well, I thought in that case you're probably not a bad bloke anyway. But I think you offered to work for nothing for years, didn't you? There was something to do with that. Oh no, it was for a few months, yeah, but for some time, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was probably a combination of, hey, that won't hurt anyway, and
yeah,
well, you were wanting to do things you were telling me about. I thought, well, that was interesting. Why not? Why not? No.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. So I'm going to read some of the comments on YouTube of the videos of you. Some good, some bad.
Yeah.
Start with some of the good ones. Vince is the man. Good little clip, mate.
Yeah. Thank you. What can I say?
That was from Mid Coast Adventures. And then I like Vince Strang's advice. He has given me, always has been helpful, conservative in regards to mods.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the thoughts. I mean, I don't know everything, but yeah, I appreciate. If I can help, beauty.
Awesome.
Take it or leave it.
Yeah, a lot of people commending your knowledge. Vince's advice and knowledge on the DR is like no other. People are really enjoying it. He should be known as Vince the Wise.
All that a horseshit.
Yeah, a lot of people have bought some stuff from you. They want the videos to keep coming. Is that tank bag of yours? That's a Nelson rig, right? On your bike? Those two small bags?
It's probably an Andy Straps one. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I do like Andy Straps stuff. They're made in Australia. His tank bags are expensive, but they're the best I've seen for a DR anyway,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, somebody asked about that. I need to get those for my bike because now with all the electrical stuff and so on, I need a little bit extra space. I need to get a tank bag of some sort.
Yeah. A tank bag's handy. I've got a couple. The Rats ate one in the rat plague, unfortunately, and I've got to send it away and get it repaired because it was real good. It had little side pockets. Actually, both the ones I've got, the anti-strap ones, have got side pockets down the front side of the tank as well as the top.
Yeah.
And it's just handy. You can put, you put a bit of tucker in there, a can of salmon or something or other. You want to grab it when you're on the way, or some jerky or whatever. And in the top, just electrical stuff like a little camera, charging port things, phone, whatever.
That's what I need to get for it, just to have some storage in the front.
Yeah.
Here's a question from somebody. He's wondering if you know about, I don't know, anything about the 1990 Dr650 Kickstart.
1990 model?
Yeah, apparently, but I don't think they made Dr650s then, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they were the early ones. We had very little to do with them. I wasn't particularly fond of them because they had a balancer chain, whereas the later ones are balancer gear driven. But the early ones of the balancer chain, it used to flog about a bit and did require either mechanical or manual adjustment fairly frequently. But so I don't know. I've got to say I know bugger all about it.
Oh, okay. And anything about the kickstart on any Dr650?
Well, there's not been any kickstarts on them from 96 onwards.
You can't get an aftermarket one?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, this just physically won't fit. You can't fit it. DRZ 400, yep. You can put a Kickstarter on it.
Yep. But there's just no space on it.
650, no, there's no way to put it.
Yeah, a lot of people, like I'm in California and I did a Pro Cycle Jet kit. It made a huge difference. Smoother throttle. One person did say that that it's not about having more power, that the modification is about having more responsiveness. What do you think about that? Like,
yeah, okay, I don't know. It's a bit relative. How do you can seat of the pants feel is one way of doing it. You can another way is to compare it to exactly a standard bike. And if they've been successful with that and they're happy with that, that's great. I know a flat slide carburetor will give you more response.
But you don't think cutting the spring and drilling the hole in the slide mimics a flat slide?
Yeah, it could do. It's the fiddling around, and then the ones that get it wrong and they've got to come back and do it again, or they've got to go back to standard. That's where I find the issue, you know. And as I said, if they're happy with their bike and what they've done, that's great. I'm happy with my engine, well, stock, apart from a pilot jet and a steam tune and different gearing. If you can call that stock.
It's kind of stock. It's close to stock.
It's not far from stock. I'm happy with that. But I know it could be made better. But with my business and with the time I've got and the stuff I do after and the fact that I like going riding and eating into my riding time gives me the shits. So I'm real happy getting my bike to where I'm satisfied with it. And I know a lot of people, the big enjoyment is to actually make the thing better.
People enjoy tinkering and so on, just changing it.
You might say, hey, why don't you just want to make your bike better? Well, I do, but the effort and the time and fuel consumption is a very important consideration as far as I'm concerned, simply because I don't want a big fat tank on my bike. I'll put as big a tank as I need, but I don't want to have to carry excess fuel. And even with excess fuel, I don't want to run out because my bike's not jetted right or isn't running right and uses more fuel. I like to get 20 kilometres to the litre. And when people get better than that, and you can get better than that if you fiddle around with it, but the ones that are getting better than 20 kilometres to the litre, that's awesome. And I'm jealous. But I'm not jealous of the ones that are getting 16 kilometres to the litre. Because I don't need that. I like mine as it is. So I'm happy with, if you can make it more responsive and whatever, that's great. And response is probably a nice thing to have. And I like to have the thing smooth as well. But as I said, if you're happy with your bike, excellent. I'm happy for you.
With one person that commented recently mentioned that they actually get better fuel consumption, and their theory why they get better fuel consumption is because the bike is getting more fuel and more air, right? That it doesn't have to rev as high to get the same speed, therefore runs at a lower RPM.
Well, revs and speed are all related to gearing. So if you change your jetting, you're not going to get less revs or more revs for the same speed, because you're still going to have this, unless you change the sprockets, because revs are related to, if you do 3,100 revs, you're going to do 100 kilometres an hour if that's the way your gearing is. Change the shit out of the gearing, or out of the jetting, you're still going to get the same speed at 3,100 revs. But you might be able to use less throttle.
That's what I think what I meant. Less throttle for the same speed.
Revs. That's possible. That's good.
So if you get it right, and you're good at tuning a bike and you're mechanically knowledgeable, like it is possible, in your opinion, to get better fuel consumption.
For sure. Better fuel consumption, more power, and it all goes back to time related. You know, how much time you can spend, how much knowledge you've got. You might accidentally fluke it. That'd be even awesome. But most people, no, not most people, but a lot of people call me up and say, hey, I've done this, I've done that, I've watched the YouTube, and it's got this cough and a flat spot. What should I do? I don't bloody know, because I didn't do the work to it. I didn't change it. I don't know what else you've done.
There's lots of little things you can change.
Telephone diagnostics is not real easy. Got different colours, so you can tell which one's which, Troy.
You've been riding for?
Yeah, I've been riding since I was, I think, 12 years old. And I've been racing since as soon as I could get a license, which back in those days was 16 and 9 months when you could get a road license. I've been racing off-road, and I've raced cross-country, high-speed cross-country races where your bike needs to do 150, 170 kilometres an hour.
On what bikes?
On a IT 400 for a start, and then a Husky 610, and quite a number of them done that. That was at the other side of St George,
Yep.
where they used to have really the bike, if it could do 200, it would have, you know.
Yeah.
But we were flat at like
Kind of like Flint.
yeah, and so all that sort of stuff. And I now am more than happy at 90 to 105. It just feels comfortable.
Yeah.
And I've got more time to stop for a kangaroo or something or other like that. But I feel I've got especially more time to see the countryside, pull up and have a look at something that's interesting. I don't flash by it and say, shit, I wonder what that was. Too late. It's gone.
But
You know, so power or speed, same deal. I don't have to super accelerate my bike. I just hop on it and I smoothly accelerate. I must be an old man, you know.
I think so. I think you're an old man.
That's what it is, you know.
And also, you've experienced the thrill of the speed, and I think
Oh, yeah.
we all become more cautious as we're older. Generally,
Yeah.
not all the time. There's exceptions.
You
obviously.
know, I've ridden a whole lot of different bikes. Many that have been quite fast, like Hayabusas, were pretty damn fast.
Yeah.
I've ridden them, and I've ridden, bloody hell, near every sort of off-road dirt bike, you know, and so I know what power is, and I love that, but I like it in the right spot. I like, you know, on a proper track. I certainly wouldn't go as fast now as I've ever done if I went on a big open motorbike track or something, like a cross-country track or something. If the track was all right, yeah, I'd probably hold it flat, but I don't really feel like I need to much anymore. I kind of feel like I don't have to prove much now.
But
I know, so.
do you think you've ridden a lot of fast bikes, right? So you would have a fair idea of how fast the DR650 is, and you think it's fast enough stock? Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, look at these good guys having fun. Good old boys.
But yeah, you're not trying to like get that responsiveness. You just
no.
you still ride pretty fast though. When we went to Pilliga, you were hammering it sometimes.
I bet you I didn't go over 110. In the bush we might have a little bit of fun.
In the bush,
sure, yeah.
In the bush when we were weaving through trails and stuff.
No, well, I guess that's a little bit of, I don't know, adrenaline rush and whatever. And there was a very low risk factor there. It was the middle of the day. It was unlikely that we were going to encounter kangaroos or pigs that we couldn't stop for, because realistically, we probably weren't doing any more than 30 to 60 kilometres an hour through those trees and things, I don't think.
It just feels like we're going faster.
Yeah, of course it feels like going quick.
Yeah.
But,
I had a few skittish moments there, but it was fun. I'm much more comfortable there, even though I'm more likely to fall. I'm much more comfortable in that than I am on bitumen.
Oh yeah, me too.
It's so much.
Yeah. It's off the road or on the dirt tracks or whatever. There's a lot more things to see. You know, visually the enjoyment is much higher, in my opinion. Some people just like cruising down the bitumen. You know,
and also
that's good.
I think it's because I almost killed myself on a Kawasaki Ninja 650, 2-cylinder.
Yeah.
My first bike.
Yeah.
Way too big for my first bike.
Yeah.
4 months in, I thought I was the king of the world. I was in between Nimbin and Mimbalimba. Dusk. I'd been riding for 4 hours, going around a corner, one knee almost down. Thought I was super cool. There was this pothole in the middle of the road.
Ooh, yeah.
And I, being inexperienced, I tried to come up, but it was still on a corner.
Yeah.
And as soon as I tried to come back down from coming up, my front wheel just said fuck you and kicked me off the bike, and I woke up 5 hours later at 12 o'clock at night.
Oh no.
So ever since then, I've got a lot more respect for the bitumen.
Yeah.
Because like nothing happened to me, luckily.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of cliffs in that area. I could have easily just I woke up on the side of the road. It was just a big gutter.
Yeah.
But I also unrestricted that bike because I was a learner, so it was 32 kilowatts restricted. but I unrestricted it so it was 52 kilowatts. It was just a little chip in the ECU.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think ever since then I'm way more comfortable falling on the dirt because I know it's generally going to be more soft and I'm going slower.
Yes.
You know, I might have an injury or something, but
yeah. And there's not another vehicle coming the other way to run over you.
Yeah, that's it. And it's just this, oh man, tar. But then again, I say that, but I rode across Myanmar with no shoes, like just with thongs, 7,000 Ks.
Still got all your toes?
Huh? I still somehow, and I almost crashed, but because the bike was so light, I caught it. But I had some pretty crazy experiences with that. So, and I had no shirt on most of the time. My helmet was polystyrene. So I say that, but I've done some pretty stupid stuff. So
I had a very short, funny story. When helmet laws first came out in Australia, I had an old Jawa 350, and I thought, heck, I've got to get my helmet, but my helmet had gone in my boss's car. So I'm chasing after him on my Jawa and going around this corner onto a bridge. And the council had a truck go along and the water was running out of the back of it. As I went around the corner, I crashed with no helmet, going to try and get my helmet. Everything was all good, but it was just a stupid incident.
Right.
Well, I was very young then. I was probably only 17 then.
Bones made of steel.
Yeah. I think it was just because I was young, I didn't get hurt.
Yeah. Okay, Vince, couple questions for you. One from Chicano Patriot. So Vince says only to replace the pilot size jet for easy cold starts. Will this help the 1990 DR Kickstart model as well?
I don't know. I don't know. It's quite possible because they generally tend to they generally tend to set them out pretty lean for pollution. Even though it's a 90 model, it probably will be relatively lean, but you may be able to just turn the fuel screw, which is this little screw hidden underneath the carburetor at the front of it, closest to the cylinder head. You may be able to screw that fuel screw out a quarter turn and have a similar effect. Only mess with it if it is hard to start. And if it is hard to start, there may be other issues anyway.
Yep. Okay. What about this one?
How do you feel about all the cases where gearbox blows up and sends shrapnel all over the lower end? Worst case, you eventually get a gear acting up.
You know, it happened. One of the motors was sent to you when the gears blow up in the motor. He's found many instances where it's happened.
Should he just schedule a full overhaul at 40,000 miles and replace the gearbox? Why not upgrade to a Nova 13% plus minus?
Gear set.
Yeah. First of all, as far as I'm hoping I'm going to answer the right question because of the noise, but I think first of all, the one person blows a gearbox up, and of course 15 people know about it, so immediately it appears like 15 gearboxes are blowing up. When there was a few of them, more than normal, back probably 6 or 8 years ago, it appeared there was a bit of an issue with 2009, 2010, 2011 models, and I talked to Suzuki at that stage about that. And some of the guys at Suzuki have actually got DRs, so they take quite a bit of interest in them anyway. And it seemed like there might have been 1 or 2 in 100 had done it. At that stage they were selling about 500 DR650s a year. And as far as warranty issues went, they had, I think it was something like, out of the 500, they probably had 5 bikes or 6 bikes, so it was probably less than 2 per 100. Not really, I mean, it's an issue when it happens to you for sure. And it isn't a nice thing because yes, they can, when the gear shatters, it can get in the wrong spot, bust the crankcase and do all sorts of disastrous things. But when it's all said and done, there's been very few. I think it'd be a waste of money to say, okay, at 40,000 Ks, I'm going to pull the thing apart and just replace the gearbox. There's plenty. I've got had plenty of examples that have done well over 100,000 kilometres and still haven't had any gearbox issues. I would say that, well, there's no doubt, by far the majority won't have any gearbox issues. If you're paranoid and you've got plenty of money, you'd pull it down. And I think the wider ratio Nova transmission set, which isn't all the gears either for that matter, but that would be a good idea. It would be a lovely thing if Suzuki from the factory had fitted that slightly wider ratio gearbox to the DR650. It would have really made it an extremely good adventure bike, or much even better than what it is, if that's possible.
Is that the 6 gear set?
No.
Oh, that's
just wider ratio 5 gears.
Oh,
it's got bags of torque, and it could easily have handled first and second at a lower ratio, so that you had a wider spread, and say then running along at less revs at 105 kilometres an hour in top gear. So anyway, it is what it is. But if you were going to put new gears in it, bloody hell! If you were going to put new gears in it, that wider ratio gear set from Nova, I think, probably would be what you'd do. But I definitely wouldn't waste me money at 40,000 k's or 60,000 or 80,000 k's and split the gearbox just for no reason. And if you want to check it out, beauty. But unless you've got a whine in it, or it's starting to clunk or whatever, be careful you don't run the chain too tight, because that can wear out one of the bearings on the gearbox shaft, and then you do have a disaster. A lot of engines that do those sort of miles that the DR650 does, a lot of engines will have a gearbox or transmission issue when they get the miles up. It's just not a lot of bikes do the sort of mileage and the sort of work that DR650s do. People put 35 litre tanks or 25 litre tanks, they add a ton of gear on the back, and then they cruise along at 100 kilometres or 110 kilometres an hour for hours and hours. You get a massive heat build up, and you've got a load, a much greater load than probably the rated load capacity of the bike. It's not surprising that after a period of time, some of them have a gearbox issue. Yeah. And that'll happen to any bike.
Didn't you tell me when one of those got sent in, like that there's a machining error on one model, where they machine on the one tooth?
I understand that I think after 2011, they changed the machining where the hole in the gear, where the tooth from the corresponding gear or the dog from the corresponding gear goes in when it's meshing the next gear, that was too close to the gullet of a tooth, and so it was a fracture point, if you like. And I understand they moved that so that it isn't lining up the same, and so that supposedly reduced the incident. Certainly there's been less incidents in bikes after 2011.
I thought, when you first told me this, I thought it was earlier models. Now I'm worried because mine is a 2009. So maybe mine will have that problem somewhere in Asia.
Yeah, well, we looked in your gearbox, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yeah, it was all right.
Yeah. A lot bloody leaner than two strokes, though. Like if we get with the aircraft engines, you run them lean of peak, so you get them really leaned out, and they don't blow up. But a motorcycle engine, if it's running too rich, it runs colder, and as we said before, it can eventually it can even dilute the oil. You get excess bore wear because you're getting too much fuel flushing the oil in the bore.
What size jet do you think you would have to go to before it starts causing that type of damage?
Well, it's probably a combination of a number. I mean, it could be too rich on the needle, too rich on the slide, too rich on the main jet. So just generally too rich on the float level.
Yep.
There's a whole lot of factors with the carburetor that affect riches, all the different circuits. If not necessarily just one of them. You've got just a big rich main jet is probably it's no good, because the main jet, when it's too rich, will affect it from half throttle even right through. But it's more than one jet. It'll be a combination of everything being too rich.
a discussion we've had in the past, speaking about the carburetor, we've talked about, me and you have talked about, it's a constant velocity carburetor, right? CV.
That's right, yeah.
Right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but the benefit of that carburetor is its ability to adjust the amount of fuel being pushed through depending on the altitude.
Yeah, they are altitude compensating.
Yeah, exactly right. And does the hole in the slide and the cut spring affect its ability to compensate the altitude?
Good question. It might. Yeah, I expect it would. Possibly not so much the spring, but I would imagine the hole, the extra hole drilled in the bottom of the slide. I've had some bikes where we've had to actually refill the hole to get them to run correctly.
Yeah.
Or like, I think they quite often drill this original hole that's in there bigger and then drill another one.
Yeah.
And we've had to fill one of the holes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But it's like anything, and not every, it's just a bit weird, but not every engine is the same, even though those, DR650 is a DR650. But one engine can be made to run differently, or will run differently to another one with an identical jetting set in it. So what's good in one bloke's bike isn't necessarily, or girl's bike, or isn't necessarily what's good in the other bike.
Yep.
So you can have two different jettings to make them run the same.
Mine was originally modded by someone else, but on the first ride I took to Sydney, when I started climbing the range from Newcastle towards Nowindock, I couldn't get over 80 kilometers an hour. At that time I had a big hole in my airbox, but I had stock jetting, if you remember when we took my carburetor apart, and I had a different needle and an extra hole in the slide. But as soon as I got to altitude, my bike started struggling. It felt like it was so much weaker.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think my bike wasn't modded correctly though.
Definitely not.
No, not at all.
As a wild guess, without actually experiencing what it was doing, I'd say I was running lean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it's got plenty of air there.
Yeah, because of the hole.
Yeah, but the jetting is not rich enough to compensate for the air. Also, the velocity of the air was probably low, so your slide may not have been opening as well as it should.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like that is a tuned carburetor airbox intake system on the DR650 in standard condition. By tuned, I mean it all depends on the snorkel, the volume of air that can be dragged through the snorkel at a certain throttle opening. So the whole system is designed to work together, and that's why I'm fond of, if you're not a fiddler and you're not prepared to mess about, I'm fond of leaving it in stock sort of condition, because I know it works that way.
Yeah.
It works for what it is and for what the bike, the majority of time, what the bike does.
Yep.
That's why.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. I think now I've gone up and down the range a few times now that we've taken, and mine's not stock because we've still got the bigger pilot in it, and but the slide, everything else about it is stock other than the exhaust, and it's been amazing on the range. Like I've had no less power.
Yeah.
To the jet sizes, you mentioned in the previous video that you might change the main jet to a 145 if need be, right?
Yeah. And again, that's sort of, as I said before, not every one of those engines are the same. And some of them, when you put, say, a stain tune, for example, we're talking about now, or a Barrett system, because both of those are ones we use at the shop, so they're the ones I'm most experienced with. And we nearly always find a bigger pilot jet works, but then you have to alter the fuel screw too. So it's a matter of tuning each one of those engines to suit that pilot jet. Just don't whack a jet in and, man, that's great.
Yeah.
And sometimes that bike with those that exhaust on it can handle a one size bigger pilot jet. Sometimes it's too rich and it's no good. It'll start running rich. It'll use more fuel. And that's the thing I look at, is I still want it to be the same fuel consumption or less.
Yep.
as the original configuration.
Do you need to do? Can you just put on an aftermarket exhaust without changing the jets, or without altering the carburetor, or can what modifications are required once you put a aftermarket exhaust on it?
Well, you have to put it on and see what it needs. That's about the size of it. It's just, it's not a matter of, hey, this is always what's going to be when you put a different exhaust, a Yoshi on it, or whatever it might be. It depends on how the bike's running. Some of them might run perfectly good. I've seen good stain tunes on the DRs, and the bike's required nothing. It's just run just fine as it is. So it's a matter of putting it on and seeing. And that's the thing. People say, what sort of jet do you need? Well, you only need change it if it needs changing, and the only way you're going to need to change it is the experience to tell you whether it's rich or lean or running fine, or whether you can lean it out a little bit more and it'll still have the same power but use less fuel. Sometimes you need to put a bit bigger jet in it to get it to use less fuel. Now it's a bit of a
how do you judge
one. Now don't you're gonna ask me a question now, aren't you? Yes, but the engine might not be struggling. If it's got not enough air, you're going to be opening the throttle or trying to get it to work to build revs or get more speed or more power by frigging around with the throttle where you've got the position. So if it's too lean, it still might use more fuel than if it's perfect jetted. So it doesn't necessarily mean you put a bigger jet in, it's going to run richer. Sometimes it will run better and use the same or even less fuel.
Yep.
It's just a matter of having it jetted correctly.
Yep. So what you're saying, to sum up, correct me if I'm wrong, there's no right or wrong answer here. You just need to work it out. You need to assess every different bike and try and find what works best. Wow.
Yeah. Black magic. That's pretty much it, like you said. Each bike has to be assessed individually. A lot of them are pretty much the same, and universally you can say, okay, this works in this one, it'll probably work in that other one. But don't be surprised if you have to change the fuel screw position because of it, or maybe change the position of the needle.
Yep. Thank you. So Vince, are you sick of the questions yet? That's a yes, I think. What do you think about the 790 bore kit? Should people do it to their bike? Does it cause damage to the engine?
I don't really know, because I haven't put a 790 kit in anything. I haven't used one. I personally like the standard setup, but only because it's reliable. I don't know how long they last. I've had people say, yeah, we've done 10,000 Ks and never been an issue. Well, 10,000 Ks is hardly run in for standard engine. When they've done 150,000 Ks on a 790 kit, and it's more common than not, then I'll say, shit, yeah, they must be good. It's not unusual for 1 out of 10 to get a good run out of something, or 1 out of 5 in the case of Chinese stuff. But no, I don't really know. I can't comment. Lots of people say, hey, it's really good, and I'm sure it'd give it more power. It'd bloody rip your arms out for sure. But yeah, why don't they just buy a 790 KTM? Because I think the reliability factor would be about the same then.
Yeah.
It might be great, and it might be a bit of an issue here and there.
Speaking of KTMs and other bikes, I'll stop hounding you about DRs now. I think we've learnt enough. Why do you like betas so much? Beta racing bikes.
I like them because they're called beaters.
Beaters,
you
sorry.
bloody yank.
Beta.
Well, it's a family company. Not that makes any difference. They make very good quality motorbikes. Virtually the whole thing is made by Beta itself.
In Italy?
Yeah. It's I got involved because because I'm so damn old. I had a 501 Husky FE, which was a lovely bike, had a beautiful engine, He was just pretty tall and a little heavy, particularly top heavy because of the height of the engine. And it was, I reckon, I was perhaps falling off it a little bit more, or I was afraid to ride it in some places that I kind of wanted to ride.
This is like hectic trail riding you're talking about.
Yeah. I'm talking about, you know, riding through the bush and places. And so I looked around, I thought, and I always liked two strokes. I've been brought up with two strokes because I'm old. And I just saw these Beta 300 cross trainers, and I started looking about it, and I thought, gee, it's sub 100 kg, so under 100 kgs. The thing has a lower seat height but still got the same sort of ground clearance. So instead of being 950 millimeters ground clearance seat height that the Husky was, I think we're down at 910. So, you know, it's a best part of 2 inches lower. It's very skinny, being a two-stroke, and at 98 kg or something, it was about 8 or 9 kgs or even 10 kgs lighter than the Husky. Electric start, oil injected, two-stroke. What the hell else could you want when you're going trail riding, man? And so anyway, I thought I'm going to buy one of these bikes. We're not a dealer for them, or we weren't at that stage. I want one of these bikes because I want the thing, and I'm like that all the time. If I like something, whether I sell it or not, I'll get that.
Yeah.
And I think people should do that. It's the same. They don't have to buy something from me just because I sell it, or they can buy something else from someone else. If I don't sell it, it doesn't matter to me. So I got this 300, brother. I had a ride on one first, and I thought, yep, definitely. So I ordered one. I got it, and I was extremely impressed with it. The build quality is beautiful. I reckon it's Italian flair and passion that bike is made with. And we all know Italians are a bit fanatic. But it's, and anyway, the more I looked at it, the more I thought that this is a great thing. None of our range of bikes, Suzuki or Honda or Kawasaki, had a 300 enduro type, or had a two-stroke enduro bike. And Beta had trials bikes, which we didn't have any of our range. They have 125, 200, 250 and a 300 two-stroke in enduro bikes, and then they also have a similar range of four-stroke enduro bikes, and proper ones, lightweight, registerable, extremely good handling, beautiful power, and appeared to be very reliable. So anyway, in the end, we applied for an agency and got them.
So now you're a dealer?
Yeah, so we're a dealer now, and I'm very happy, and you know, I'm not saying they're any better than Husky or KTM or something, but I think they're definitely on par, and certainly save a lot of dollars buying one of them.
Are they cheaper?
Yeah, they're quite a bit cheaper for equivalent motorcycle.
Does anybody use them to race in the motocross in Inverell? Any
Not in
beaters?
motocross, because they haven't at this stage had a motocross bike, but this year they're bringing out, last year they developed or released a 300 two-stroke motocross bike,
okay.
Which took off quite well in the USA. I think they brought a handful to Australia, but they were all pre-sold.
Would that run with the 250 category?
I think it's probably more attractive for over 35 age riders, or the age classes, because there's no capacity changes in that. You can run a 125 or you can run a 500.
Yeah.
They perfectly suit that, because the characteristics of the 300 two-stroke is wonderful broad spread of power, still lively, but also very light. And two-strokes are just a little different to riding as a four-stroke.
Yeah.
Four-stroke motocross bike has got its own unique and great characteristics, but a two-stroke has got different ones again. Maintenance on a two-stroke, though, is far reduced, and a lot easier to maintain them and keep them. Cheaper to keep them going in good condition. You know, so. But anyway, Beta this year, 2021, put their foot into the World Motocross Grand Prix. They stuck their neck out with, just no development time. Went straight into the Grand Prix. got a half a decent rider, and got a number of top 10 positions in the World Championship Grand Prix.
Oh, wow.
On a new motocross bike, they're calling an RX 450. So for a company like that to come straight up, make a motocross bike, go into the Grand Prix, and be relatively, or pretty damn successful, is damn amazing. So the just goes the quality, that shows the quality of that motorcycle anyway. They will, I'm quite sure now, develop or release a 4-stroke motocross bike in the next year or so.
So I know this is a bad question maybe because they make completely different bikes, but who do you like more, Suzuki or Beta?
Beta.
Oh, look at that. You just offended some DR owners now.
There's no equivalent to each other.
Exactly, there's no Beta that's equivalent to a DR.
So that's not really a very good question.
Yeah, as I said.
That's a shit question.
Yeah, it is a shit question.
I had the Beta have won the world enduro GPs, I think, for the last 5 or 6 years running.
Oh, you mean like road, like bitumen racing?
No, enduro GPs. Yeah, off-road enduro GP. So the World Championship enduros have been won by Beta for the last, I think, at least 5 years.
What do you think the chances of Josh changing to Beta is?
Not much chance. I think only because he's happy with what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's well and truly entrenched with Kawasaki. They do make a wonderful motorbike, and he's got a very good team behind him. Yeah. I don't know the future, like if they pay him enough money, I'm sure he would. He even rode Yamaha, they paid him a lot of money.
True.
But no, look, that's not a very nice thing to say. I used to race Yamahas and was very happy with them, and I still think they make extremely good bikes. In fact, all the European and Japanese manufacturers make very high quality motorcycles. And if you buy one and keep it standard, it will be a bloody good motorbike for sure.
Speaking of standard, you don't rejet the DRs, but you do rejet the Betas when they come from the factory.
Oh yeah, because they're compliant for European E5. They're Euro 5 compliance.
Yeah.
And so they have little funny little exhausts on them. They have restrictors and all sorts of stuff in them. But they give you every bit to put in it. So we put exactly what the factory give us into that bike, and it runs perfectly straight away.
Yeah, okay. So everything you're putting in comes from Beta. So it is stock
from Beta. Yeah.
Yeah, I see. They just have to import it a certain way.
Yeah.
Because that was the argument. A lot of people told me that the DRs are delivered too lean, and you have to richen them up in order to bring them up to a good quality. But
there's no restrictors in the DR.
Yeah, you don't. But in the States there might be.
Yeah, maybe over there. DRZ 400 has got restrictors in it. It has manifold restrictors, it has exhaust, and it has a throttle stopper, so the throttle only goes 1/8 opened, and it has funny little jets. So we have to change here.
Yeah. No, thank you. One day, I guarantee you, I will buy a Beta from you. Because I rode that bike when we were registering it, when I was working for you, and it is incredible. Like, I've only been on a couple of 2-strokes, so maybe I don't really know, but I loved it as well. So,
well, interesting thing, they had just released a 19.5 litre tank for the 390 Beta.
Really? So it can be an adventure bike almost.
Yep, and that's what I'm going to do. I'll get one of those. We already have a rider in Inverell who's got a DRZ 400, which he's keeping, but he's bought a 390 litre and he's ordered a new big tank for it, and we're going to lower the suspension, which I need to do for mine as well, because an adventure rider is pulling my leg if he says he needs more than 11 inches of travel. So the Beta with nearly 13 inches of travel can stand 2 inches less.
Yeah.
Which is what I will do with mine when I get it.
That's so it's easier to stay upright, right?
Much nicer seat height.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who's ridden his 390 Beta a couple of times across the Simpson Desert and said it was an absolute hoot. As anybody who's ridden an off-road, a proper off-road, like enduro type bike, across the Simpson or any of those sort of conditions, Fraser Island, it's just absolutely fantastic. So much better than the DR650. But
the DR's not too bad though. I rode it on Rainbow Beach. And
no, of course not. But relatively speaking here, and I'd far prefer to ride the DR from Inverell to Birdsville before I started the Simpson Desert, and then I'd like to change.
But you're going to ride the...
So, you know, it's there's so many good bikes, and all you need to do is personalise them a little bit.
Yeah,
so anyway, that's what we might try to do, is get a 390 beater and see if we can make it into a bit more longer distance.
Do you sell those, the 390 beaters?
390s, yeah, all of them, yeah.
Oh, true.
That's a very popular four-stroke.
That's tempting. How much do you sell that one for?
Oh, thereabout. Well, by the time you put a tank on that bike and made a rack system of some sort so you could carry some stuff, you're probably going to be $17,000.
Okay, DR.
Yeah, so it's not. Yeah, that's why the DR is a very good proposition.
Yeah, exactly. So rare, but such a good bike. So cheap in comparison.
Yeah.
I think if I sell that new one I bought from you, I could probably make a profit now. Not now, maybe in a year's time.
That's my job. Oh, here we go.
Here we go. How are you, Vince?
Oh, good.
Good to hear. I feel like we've had a lot of conversation and I haven't recorded it, but something is just for my ears, maybe. So what spare parts do you recommend are essential for me to take around Australia and the world on with me while I'm riding my DR650?
Take a bag of happiness.
A bag of happiness?
Yes, patience. Happiness and patience. There's not... You can't take everything. And you'll never take everything, but I suppose on what we have experienced, you take some... You don't have to worry about an oil filter. You could leave the oil filter in for 10,000 Ks more if you're able to change the oil a bit. Probably a couple of spark plugs, because spark plugs are, easy. Even though they'll do 20,000 Ks or more, but you take them anyway. You probably should take a pickup coil and some soldering joints so that you can solder that thing into place. And before you go, you should make sure that the pickup coil can be unbolted. They come standard with a Phillips screw, and sometimes that's really hard to undo without an impact driver. So if you replace that with Allen screws before you go, you can change it.
I think I did that already. Hey, yes, I did.
Excellent. Yep. I don't know.
And that pickup coil sits on which side of the motor?
On the left side of the motor.
Just.
You have to undo the cover. There's about 8 bolts, I think, from memory, and it comes off. The flywheel stays in place. The pickup coil is on the back of that.
Yeah, it's just a little plastic thing with 2 wires coming off.
Yeah, it's a coil. So it's a wire core. A steel core, or a laminated steel core, and a whole lot of windings on it, 2 wires.
Yep.
Possibly you either take some wheel bearings. Wouldn't hurt to take some wheel bearings, or at least the bearing that fits in the push drive hub. So in the sprocket carrier hub, there's a
1 bearing in there.
6205, I think it might be. Yeah, you probably should take one of them and be prepared to change it before it buggers up. I even reckon that it's a good idea to give it a thorough checking over each time you change a tyre.
Oh, the bearings?
That bearing, yep.
That bearing, oh, okay. Yep. I think I put new ones in already, but I know what you mean.
It's a disaster if it fails, and under decent conditions, it's probably 50,000 kilometres. But under adverse conditions, especially if you get a bit of wire around the back, wrecks the seal, and you get grit or sand or water or whatever in there, you could do that bearing in 5,000 Ks.
Okay.
You could do it in a week, do it in a day.
Yeah.
So that you keep an eye on that thing. Gee, I don't know. I carry a little bypass tube for my oil cooler. And if you hit a kangaroo or a warthog or whatever it might be, wherever you are, an elephant, it may crack the oil cooler or split it or whatever. So you need to be able to bypass that, because the engine will live without that oil cooler.
I see what you mean. So you just bypass where it connects on either side.
Where the oil still circulates the same way.
Is that
just doesn't go through the oil cooler?
So is that just a rubber tube?
Yeah, heavy oil line with fittings on each end.
Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't take up much. You can carry it in a bum bag easy.
Yep.
So it's really pretty good. I don't know what else.
Maybe tubes as well, you've told me?
Oh yeah, obviously tyre puncture repair kit, tubes and that sort of thing. And appropriate tools, including spoke spanners. I mean, I've seen people break enough, hit something badly, break enough spokes and have to move spokes from one part of the wheel to another to keep the wheel
even.
Keep it as strong as possible. If you lose 10 spokes out of one spot, your wheel's obviously going to be very weak. So you take 5 spokes from around the place and sort of space them around a bit.
Yep.
So you need a spoke spanner. Obviously, you need to be able to get your tyres off and that stuff.
Yep. And I've got a thing of
Malleable, so it bends. It's quite easy. It can be bent backwards and forwards a few times before it breaks. So it's a pretty good gear lever.
Yeah, you can always make a plan.
The brake lever's the same. It's not forwards to anything. It'll bend one way or another. Levers, if you've got bark busters on, it's pretty bad luck if you break the levers, and you can still get by. You can get by if your brake lever is broken off short. You can still use it.
Yeah.
And the same with the clutch lever. You can make do. You can bolt something on it that will somehow or other to make it into a little bit longer, so you can get a finger on it or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow. Chain. That's why I recommend an endless chain, and I like the 525 because it lasts a lot longer than a 520 that some people feel it's a good thing to do. So you run an endless chain. The original chain is the best chain you can buy. And if you can get a super heavy duty, when you replace it like a RK GXW 525 O-ring chain, that's almost as good, I think, as the standard chain. And those things will never break unless you're a complete goose and forget to understand when it's worn out.
Yeah.
So we don't carry anything as far as chain goes, but I mean, I'm not in the middle of, I'm only 3 days from civilization in the middle of Australia somewhere or another, so not in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about it?
There's always going to be something.
Yeah, but those are the essentials.
That's the things that I would think that I would try to think about.
Yep. Thank you. I've got all of those, I believe. I just need to buy like the patch-up kit and maybe a soldering kit for the pickup coil.
No, you just need the little joint. A piece of hard sort of plastic stuff.
Yeah.
Hard heat shrink, and it's got a little bit of solder in it.
Yeah.
And you bare your 2 wires and poke it in, and you get a match or a cigarette lighter underneath, and the solder melts into it, and the heat shrink shrinks
Closes.
down.
Oh.
It's perfect.
That's cool.
I carry those with me for that reason.
Okay.
Yeah. You must look that up. I think there's probably a couple of companies make them now, but I know Worth, the WORTH, is the manufacturer of them.
WORTH.
Yeah. And they're just little pieces of clear tube, and you can see the little bit of solder in them, and it only takes a cigarette lighter, and the cigarette lighter, no, the heat just melts the solder and closes the heat shrink around the wires, so it's waterproof, weatherproof.
Have you ever had to do that in the bush?
No.
No, true.
But I used them when I did a pickup coil on my last bike. I used them when I got back to the workshop.
Wow.
I used the stuff I had with me because I didn't believe it was a pickup coil. So I got back, I just said, I'm changing the pickup coil, and it worked. Like the bike would start push starting, but it wouldn't start on the electric start. So it was not like the pickup coil when it goes. It can be short circuited or open circuited. If it's open circuit, it won't go, and there'll be no spark.
Yep.
But if it's short circuit, you'll get a spark, but it's weaker. So when you put the load under compression, when you're trying to fire through the spark plugs and it's under compression, and you're also having voltage drop because you've got the starter motor pushed, then there's not enough current generated by a short circuited pickup coil. And so you just don't get enough current going through the pickup coil to create a spark. You push start the bike and you haven't got any electric start drain, so it'll start.
Yeah.
So there's two ways it can be crooked, and it can fool you. It fooled me.
I kind of hope it happens to me.
Oh, excellent.
Just to see how it goes. But how long have you been a motorbike mechanic for? Sorry, last question.
I completed my apprenticeship in about 1976, I think. 75.
Oh.
Yeah, 75, I think.
And did you do any other courses, or was it
welding. Welding, but no, that's the only other.
Didn't you do suspension as well?
Oh yeah, but that's not really any length of a course. Like mechanical automotive engineering is what I did, and that's a 4-year course.
Yeah.
So, and the welding was a 12-month, whatever. But the suspension, and it's basic suspension. Just understanding the ins and outs and what has what effect on what. And that's only a couple of day course.
Did you fix bikes before you did your apprenticeship?
No, I drove tractors and headers on my dad's farm.
Oh, true.
And rode horses.
Yeah.
Oh, and motorbikes too.
But you didn't fix your own bikes, or you just take them to the mechanic?
Oh no, I had a couple of motocross bikes, and yeah, of course I worked on them, but nothing went wrong with them.
Yeah. CZ.
But I learned a very good thing. I did something to my air filter on my Montesa, and it wouldn't go. And what's wrong with this thing? And my dad said, go back and think about what you did. It was running before you buggerized around with it, so you've messed something up probably. And that's just like people jetting their DR, running good before they mess with it, and then it's buggered up afterwards. What have we done? You've done something wrong. And so I found out that I'd done something wrong. I went back and I can't remember, I'd done something wrong with the air filter, left a bit of rag in there or did something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Other than the people who get it right, just to represent them a little bit,
Yeah.
Because apparently, according to the people that get it right,
A lot of them do.
A lot of them do.
Yeah.
It's the jetting is shithouse before, and then afterwards it transforms into this magic dragon that can do everything.
And there's a bit of a theory in there too. You spend a bunch of money and you get something for your bike, or you do something, and if it doesn't make it wonderfully better, then you'd be quite embarrassed.
Yeah, exactly.
So you
right.
don't say to anybody,
it's like a placebo effect,
yeah,
right?
I did this and stuffed it up. No, you say, I did this and holy mackerel, it's good now. I bought this $3,000 suspension kit and it's fantastic. Wouldn't it be horrible if it was awful? Sometimes it is awful.
Do you think the way we're talking about this jetting may be like perceived as satire by some people?
Oh, yeah, probably. Yeah. And I mean, that doesn't. I'm quite happy to learn from people. I'm only saying what has worked for me and what I've got. I've probably cured a fair few motorbikes and a fair few problems in bikes and other machinery for people, aeroplanes and bloody cars and whatever. But I'm not afraid to try and learn, and I'm not afraid to say that I'm not right in some ways.
What if a 25-year-old told you you're not right? Do you think?
Well, I'll have a say and see what's wrong. What have I done wrong, and what have you done? And he might teach me something, something that I don't know, and I'm happy. I'd be happy about that, because I would always like to learn to be better, or do something quicker, do something better. You know, so I'm not afraid to learn, and I'm not afraid to ask someone who looks like they probably know something better than me, or they might be doing something. I think, shit, that's pretty clever. How'd you do that? Oh, that's good. Show me. Show me.
Last question, and I'll leave you alone. Would you ever buy a Tesla?
Maybe, but at this stage, no.
Yeah.
Only because I've got diesel and petrol, plenty of it, and I've seen them. It's just like the Corvette injection. I've seen a couple of videos of Teslas blowing up, so they must all blow up.
Yeah, just people focus on them, but
yeah, the bad things.
But is there any electric bikes in your, as far as you know, coming?
Oh, there's a lot experimenting with electrics, and unfortunately, I guess one day they will be common. Only the way I say unfortunately, I've been riding motorbikes for 60 years, and no, 50 years, and I love the noise.
Yeah.
And I love the smell of a two-stroke or something running on Castrol R. You know, unless they make the electric bike and making effective noises and blowing little bits of perfume, and I won't be altogether happy. But I know they can be impressive. I know that electric machines will have enormous low end. When they're made properly, they'll have enormous low end and enormous acceleration. So there will be good things for sure. But at this stage, I can't see myself crossing the Simpson Desert on an electric bike yet.
Yeah, no, especially because there's probably nowhere for recharge.
Yeah.
Do you think that would be as reliable as the DR one day, an electric bike?
Probably.
Yeah.
But they've still got
way.
Still have wheels and chains and steering head bearings and all that sort of stuff. In the motor compared to the engine, and the motor is electric, but the engine is the petrol one. So comparing the motor to the engine, yes, the motor can be more reliable for sure. Still going to have a transmission.
I don't think it does.
Well, I think to get the wide range and the low speed, I think it probably would need a I see it as needing a transmission.
Because the Teslas don't have transmissions, or maybe they do.
They are. I would imagine they are either hydrostatic or CVT.
All right. What does that mean?
Well, CVT is a constant velocity transmission, so it's got two pulleys effectively. One shrinks and the other expands, and it's just like a back sprocket and a front sprocket. Constantly variable ratios.
Yep.
So that's a transmission of effect. Hydrostatic, of course, is oil, or they might have. They don't. The Tesla, I imagine, would have CVT. That's what I think they have, and I might be wrong. But to go from walking speed, you know, to being able to do 150 kilometres an hour, I don't think you've got that with the electric motor. And I might be wrong there. I don't know. I just don't know enough about it. But I think they have to have some sort of transmission to, because electric motors effectively usually don't do any more than 2,800 revs.
Yep.
Thereabouts. So unless it's a 3-phase, and then it only goes 1,500 revs. So that's electric motors that I know about anyway. So I don't know. Although brushless motors do more than that. Yeah, so maybe that's what they'd be. They'd be brushless motors, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's.
I don't know. You're getting out of my field of expertise.
Yeah, no, that's all good. That's exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
The last question, and this is actually the last question.
This is about
the fourth last question. Yeah. I keep thinking of another one when you answer the question.
All right.
Okay, this is actually the last question. If you could tell your younger self, give your younger self some advice, when you were 20 years old or something, what would you tell yourself?
Go to the Northern Territory, where there's lots of things to happen and lots of things to discover and lots of adventure to be happening. Yeah.
Northern Territory. That's the answer. Okay.
Yeah, or North Queensland or top of Western Australia, somewhere that's not developed, and get into it, work hard, make a fortune.
But you've been up there already, right?
Oh yeah, but when I was far too old.
Oh, I see.
And I never went up there to work or live, you know.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, well I'm heading there now, so that's a good sign.
Good, yeah.
Vince, before my phone dies, do you realize that I've leveraged your fame to prop up my YouTube channel?
But I don't care. I think that, thank you for that, is what I could say about that, because it also, and here we talk about a commercial subject, because in a way it will help my business, I guess, which is not what I intended, and it's not the reason I speak to you anyway, but accidentally it does. So, yeah, I'm good with that. I don't mind.
Because that's the reason I came to you, because I'm like, everybody knows this guy, everybody's talking about Vince Strang, but I was looking online and I couldn't find any video of you, and I wanted to know, what does this guy think?
You can understand why.
Yeah. But everybody hears about you and buys your stuff and talks about you, you know what I mean, all the DR people at least.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, I need to go and find this information. And then also, people don't want to hear me talk about a DR, because what do I know, you know what I mean? But you've been working with it for 40 years, so thank you for letting me leverage your hard work, your life's work.
Oh, thank you too.
On the channel.
Yeah.
And that's a chat with Vince. Next one will be way more formal than that, hopefully, and with a better microphone, if you cannot hear me. Cheers, stay unbuckled.